report the meeting. Thank you very much. I just hit record. So I didn't even say very much before then. So thank you very much, Sharon. So she's our designated reminder to record person. Thanks. Okay, so follow up from last week. The questions are still being reviewed by the state. If you all could give me a general idea, it has been really swamped here. We have almost 4 times as many tickets as normal. So I'm just curious with you all, is it normally this busy this time of year? So you could put in a comment. Or you could say it's just normal. Sharon, yes. I'm curious really with Phil too to see if his side is as busy. Jody, Sharon, it is a very busy time of year. Okay. So I'm not the only one that has been swamped. Yes, Lisa, thanks. So you all understand how we're all trying to do the best we can. And I appreciate everybody, one of you. Elizabeth, very busy for 3 months. Wow. That's about as long as I've been here. So it has seemed busy. Okay, so the state is as busy as everybody else, so they're reviewing our long list of questions and we'll send out a written response. And as soon as we get that, I will post it. I'll send it to the Sugar Users Group as well as post it in the announcement section. Okay, so Joni and I came up with 3 possible trainings. I want to see this comment. Okay. Phil says, I don't personally know, but assume that the fiscal year transition and QI apps and other folks going on summer vacation, things probably got a little busy. They got, for me, and I think a lot of people, more than a little bit busy. So Joni and I came up with these 3 trainings. We were going to do one today, but because of the questions and other things and how busy everything was, we're going to move this training. So we have 3 trainings that, and I'll let you know when we reschedule the applications and MOUs. And essentially what we're doing is we're going to be recording these, and anybody that wants to join in when we're recording, they can, but then they'll be available. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to ask you all to sort of vote on each one. And if you could say urgent after I put it in, high, medium, low, or nope. So I'm going to put this in here. And for you or for your council, if you could write down whether you think this training on applications and MOUs is urgent, high, medium, low, or you don't need it, just write that in the chat. Medium. Sandra, you get the gold star now for first response. Low. Thank you, Margaret. Low. Medium. Medium. Okay. You don't have to vote, but you can say recuse like Phil says. I also recuse myself. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, you could do the training if you want. Okay. So I'll add in the second one, requisitions and coaching. And if you could, again, put urgent, medium, high, low, or nope, or recuse. Okay, high, medium. I like this. People are really voting. High. Wow, cool. Yes, the transfer process has changed, so we got a lot of high. Cool. All right, funding streams. Hi, hi. Hi, 3 highs. Okay, this is sort of a customized high to add your own funding stream targeted for grant reads. That's a good good idea to figure out who we can target each one to. Hi. Okay, this is great. I'm very excited that people are responding and giving me an idea for priorities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the support site. And here are the general areas. You know, some of them we've already covered. So like outreach was one of them, funding streams. But if you could just sort of glance at this and see if there are any other topics that come to mind that you would like us to record a training session, put the topic and then right after it, put high, medium, low, or urgent. So I'll put the instructions here. Put topic, you want additional training, and high, urgent, high, medium, or low. Best practices with pooled requisitions, medium. Cool. And you can always piggyback on somebody else's. So for example, in this best practices with pooled requisitions, if you could add that and then put your own medium, low, or high. So I get an idea if more than one person wants it.
Have a lovely weekend, everybody.
Okay, going back to applications, I see a need to discuss what to do for troubleshooting a few challenges providers ran into, which resulted in inability to do an application. That's great. So more troubleshooting applications. Let me add that. And if you could put after this, second, which one, Lilith? Could you add, because now we have two sort of on the floor. We have the pooled requisitions and the troubleshooting applications. Co-host allowable costs and best practices for expending QI dollars with OEC medium. Thank you. Troubleshooting applications. Thanks, Lilith, for clarifying.
I hate when you quit invoice, and I can never figure out how to change the total and wait for them to do it. I know how to break it out, you know what I mean? But the two bottom ones.
I have somebody on the call that I can't see. Who else? Yep, it's off now. Funding streams, budget setup for council leads. Sandra, could you put on urgent, high, medium, or low on that? Hi, thank you. Okay, and again, copy and paste. If you also want one of these that somebody has put on, if you could copy and paste what they've put now that we have multiple on the floor and put urgent, high, medium, and low. I'm going to keep this open for about another minute unless we get a lot of responses all at once, so people can think of any others that they want, any other kind of training. Say for high, the budget piece is what happens when budget changes happen. Can you describe that a little bit more, Lisa?
I had to download Adobe.
Sharon, how to collaborate using ECLA support site. Oh, I like that one. That's for me, that's a great long-term one too, if not everybody wants to do it right now. How to collaborate using the ECLA support site. Yes, there's lots of options that we aren't using as a council, as a group of councils, where we can help each other just add items to all of these types of things. Or create your own. Sharon, how to reflect budget changes on the funding stream record. Be sure that you have sufficient funds for each category for already encumbered funds. Yes, that makes sense, Lisa. Thank you. Okay, go ahead and put your last minute things in the chat box while I go back to the agenda window. You guys are awesome. I give you all gold stars for helping me set priorities with this training. It's so great to get feedback instead of trying to guess what everybody needs. Okay, I'm going to go over a few things that happened with tickets. The high needs score from the OEC, there was about 3 people that questioned the score for particular providers. And so what we did is we talked to the wonderful Quan Tran from the OEC, and he checked and verified that some of the scores were not updating. So yesterday we got a update from Quan, and Bill updated all the scores now in Sugar. So when you're scoring the SQ and CCAP rubrics, school readiness, the high needs score has changed. And what I really liked about the 3 people that questioned is every database is not 100% because of timing of edits and all that kind of thing. So everybody needs to sort of take the data with a grain of salt, and if it doesn't look right, then question it. So I'm glad that that came up. So just for those that might know what I'm talking about. Okay, please send an announcement to Sugar users that includes the attached report with the site, license number, address, and high needs score. Okay, I'll do that. Okay, site, license number, address, and high needs score. I will do that after the call. Thank you, Sharon. So on the rubrics, I'll just show you if it will come in when I click here. So this high needs score is what I'm talking about. And here are the scores. And so when you're scoring against the rubric, you'll need these scores to choose the points. So these scores got updated for a few of the sites. The last update was the end of last year, and so anything that has changed for the high need score will now be in the latest as of yesterday from OEC. Okay. Another issue that's come up a lot is the CCAP mean score versus a self-reported score. So if I go into one of the providers, here's the high need score that I was talking about. And then the mean CCAP enrollment, what some people are sort of confusing is this mean CCAP enrollment versus the self-reported number on in Colorado Shines. So, you know, if I go, see if I'm going to the right place. Whoops. I'm going into quality improvement and the QI incentive.
Like
So what the number people have been getting confused with is the mean score versus sort of the self-reported score of how many CCAP students that there are. And because they aren't all full-time, this mean score is usually less. And so, you know, it's come into play because they, in order to qualify for the CCAP, that they need 8 or more. And a lot of sites don't have 8 or more in the mean score, but they have like more than 8 students. So this has come up, I would say, on about half a dozen tickets. So that's another issue that I wanted to talk about. The Race to the Top and CCAP, it was a little confusing when we had all 4 funding streams sort of ending on June 17th. But because these 2 are rolling, you should be able to now accept more applications, and it will say on their Salesforce that they can apply for these if you have funds or if you have, if your council has access to those. Okay, and the fourth point is I'm getting a whole bunch, actually in the last 2 days, I've probably gotten I would say 12 requests for MOU changes, or essentially it's add an addendum to the standard MOUs. And it does take a while, especially since I'm relatively new. Sharon is training me on these, but I will get these all out as soon as possible. But there is a bit of a backlog, partially because I'm just learning it, and second, that everybody wanted to do this at once. So I will get those MOUs out as soon as I can. And it's basically on, they're now sort of in a queue, so I'll get the first ones out that I got requests for, and then the seconds and the thirds. I'll be working the weekend to get most of those done. Okay, so on the tickets of any of those 4 items, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to add a comment. Whoops, mean CCAP score is also mean over time. Okay, that's a good point. So like say you had a CCAP student that is only half a day, but then they only there half a year, so then I assume it would only count them as a quarter of a student. And Nicole, yes, seasonality closed for 3 months of the year can greatly impact the number. That's a really good point, Nicole, that, you know, if you're on a full year program, closing for 3 months really, you know, they'll reduce it by a quarter of your number. On the funding stream, Sharon, if rolling application selected in the application type under application setup, the system ignores the application deadline. Yeah, that was a confusion too on a few tickets. So thank you for bringing that up, Sharon. So these are really good comments. I really like them. And if you'd like to enforce an application deadline for CCAP or RTT, then you can change the type to annual application and update the application type to the desired type. So let me show you what she's saying. Is this on the funding stream, Sharon, that you're talking? about? So you were talking about for all of them? So here's where on the funding stream, it's on the application tab. Right now, the CCAP is rolling application. So if we were to change that to annual and then change a deadline, let's say July 13th, some councils like have, open for, for session 1, trying to get a deadline to get everybody in, and then some will have a different deadline for a second set. Let's see, I don't want to ruin this one, so I'm going to cancel it. So it's back to the rolling application and 617. Oh, okay. Sharon also adds that the state's expressed interest in knowing the full picture of the sites interested in participating. So even if you've used your full budget, you can still allow sites to apply and then wait list. Oh, that's really good. Really good. I know that the state is sort of reviewing funding as they go. So if we get a whole bunch of wait list, that would probably be a good thing. As long as you let your providers know that that they're on the wait list rather than they expect to get money if you don't have it. Okay, any other comments on any of the items that have been on the agenda so far? Oh, Sharon. Okay. New. I like her. Sharon has, I hope everybody can see all the chat comments because Sharon likes to put new in the item. Sugar will prevent you from sending MOUs from the site application if you do not have sufficient QI dollars or coaching hours. So sort of back to one of Lisa's comments is you don't have to do as much work. Sugar will sort of go to the maximum number of your dollars and then say you can't apply. And actually I've gotten a couple tickets about this. Is the funding stream actually did not have the correct budget amounts, and so we had to adjust the budget amounts and put in the new. And actually I'm creating an article, and if I get enough time with all the MOUs, I'll put the article out this weekend too. Okay. Lisa says, I would appreciate flexibility for each council to deal with their CCAP applications in some way. I would like the language they see to reflect that in some communities that a wait list is likely. Good idea, Lisa. You can update the language yourself on the council CCAP funding stream under the description field on the application. So I am going to go look for that. Here's the funding stream again, and then she says on the application setup, so I'm going to click on, whoops, I'm back, went to the wrong, okay, here's the application setup. I was already on the application setup, and it says in the description field. So here, you can edit what shows through Colorado Shines right here on the description, shows on EC Connect. Did I get that right, Sharon?
Yes, you did. Sorry, I was on mute. I was trying to help you, and then you figured it out for that.
Okay, cool. You're welcome, Lisa. Thank you.
And actually, while we're here, you can also update the requirements. So we've stamped in the requirements, kind of basic requirements, but you can update that to add any additional information that you'd like, or if you are ready to set up custom funding streams for your council that's separate from OAC, this is how you can put in that information without needing to know HTML or contacting us or doing anything. You can actually just indicate that you want to post your application on Color to Shines, and that this is the text that will show up there.
That is so cool that you guys have done that. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, any other, now we're down into the questions box. Any questions that people have? And you can either put the question in the chat box or chime in like Sharon did by unmuting. Year-end close and reconciliation. Yeah, Sharon and I were discussing earlier, and I thought it would be really helpful for her to share this on how DECC does their year-end close and reconciliation, since we're all at the year-end. Or how to complete transfers using requisition actions. Whoops. Sharon's the only one putting questions. Did anybody else have questions or possible questions? Anybody else have any? Okay, I am going to have you vote on A, B, or C. Or if you have something else. Okay, how to make sure you have all vendor activities reflect in sugar. Okay, we got a D now. I'll wait another 15 seconds. I wouldn't mind going to the MOU process and item D. So does that mean both C and D? Yes, okay. So the MOU process generally completed by the general lead after the rubric is scored for all applications. Sharon, do you want to show what you're talking, how long after MOUs have been distributed do programs get assigned a coach? I'm interested in A and B. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to put the votes. One here, one here.
So maybe while you're doing that, I can answer Chinazo's question.
Okay.
So all child care sites and Sugar should have, at this point, a lead coach assigned. And so the requisitions for coaching are going to default be assigned to that lead coach. The council can still decide that they need to, adjust that based on availability from that coach or specialty area for that coach. And so they can just go into the requisition and update the assigned coach. One thing that we've noticed at the Denver Council is that you do a lot of switching of coach assignments. Coaches get really, it's not really fair to the coach to have their assignment list kind of changing a lot. So you kind of want to make those decisions as part of the application approval process. So when you're going in and you're scoring your rubric and you're reviewing the requisitions to make sure that the requisitions look like they calculated correctly, like you don't have a home provider who's got $5,000 because they put in 8 classrooms in Colorado Shines or things like that. Check that out. The QI dollar requisition will always be assigned to the QI navigator on the account record, and the coach requisition will always be assigned to the lead coach. But for the coach requisition, you can click on that and update the assigned coach even before you send the MOU. And that way your coaches really know what their full caseload is for the fiscal year.
I would guess too, Sharon, that the provider, it would be really nice. When I was a provider, it's nice to know that you have sort of one coach and trying to figure out. When we had multiple coaches, it just confused us more because they concentrated on different things.
Yeah, that's the idea. And even if you do have more than one coach, like let's say maybe you've got one coach who specializes in Pyramid Plus, you might have a lead coach on the account who that Pyramid Plus coach is working with so that they know kind of what's going on with the site, so that when they get there, then the site knows about it and is kind of prepared for that Pyramid Plus coaching, as an example.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, certainly that you coach by your expertise, but having, as a provider, knowing that you got like this one person that really takes care of you and then everybody else comes in to support that person is great. Okay, Lisa has a new, I want to make sure for Chinazo and Lilith that their question was answered before we go on to the next one. Yes. Cool. Okay. And Lisa adds that when we have to split a site, we use one person who's the lead coach for the site, much like Sharon described. Yeah, thanks for verifying that, Lisa. Janazo, cool, thanks. I'm glad we got the question. Okay, so we still have one vote each for for all the items.
So it seems like the imminent thing that's happening right now is year-end close. So maybe we should talk about that a little bit, and that might spur some additional questions.
Okay. So.
And then requisition actions is something that, you know, is really pressing and important, but is also something that we can either handle through the support desk because it's pretty intuitive, or, you know, we can definitely cover that on next week's call as well. If we have a next week's call. Are we having a next week's call?
Yeah. That's a really good question, because it's the July 4th weekend, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so of those, you know, I would go either way what the group wants. We do have, I'd be fine with canceling the call, but how many want a call next week? Okay, so no DECC attendees. I know ECLA is closed at 3:30, so that won't cancel. I do, ACECC will be closed, so Tiffany wants it. Let's see. So far, there's only one person on the call that that would want it. Okay, so let's go ahead and cancel it. And then Tiffany, if you want a special session, yeah, maybe I can leave early if we don't have a call. That would be nice. Tiffany, I will offer you a special session, so just for you, and we can invite anybody else. So if you want to set up, you know, send an email to my rick@eclacolorado.org, and feel free to, we'll set up one for you, and then we'll just I'll send an announcement if anybody else wants to send it. We'll just do a different time that works for you, Tiffany. Does that sound okay? Plus anybody else that wants to be. Okay. So just send it to me and we'll work it out. And that way I can leave early on Friday. So I'm excited. Thank you for bringing that up, Sharon. No call.
All right.
Okay, so Sharon, I'm going to take a few notes on here. What I'd like you to do is give us an overview first, and then I'll give you the screen. Does that make sense, or do you need the screen?
That sounds perfect to me.
Okay, so I'm going to just try to format this a little bit. And by Sharon R. E-O-Y, end of year guru. So you're now an end of year, I actually have to capitalize that, right? Okay. All right. So if you give us an overview first, I'll take the notes.
Sure, and I think we've got some of the amazing DECC team on the line, one of whom is Lelania, who's our lead quality improvement navigator, who really helps a lot with this grand process. So Lelania, if you want to chime in at all, that would be much appreciated. But the idea is for year end, one of the most important things is to make sure that you and your vendors are on the same page with what purchases have been requested, have actually been placed, have been shipped, and then anything that complicates that, like back-ordered items, are returned. And so it's really important at this time of year to be in very close communication with your vendors, particularly your largest vendors, to make sure that they know to send you invoices really timely, that they know if there's any kind of credit expected that you get that associated with your account, that they're not sending you checks for refunds and credits, but that they're netting that against your other purchases. There's a lot that you can do to manage cash and make sure that you're on the same page with vendors. So does anyone have any comments or questions about that, specifically around really that close relationship with your vendors at this time of year?
Sharon,
anything?
I do have a quick thing to say. This is Lelania. There is a really great report in Sugar that we use to see if there's any orders that have not been invoiced, or you can use it to just take a look at the whole system and really see, is there anything that hasn't been completed, ordered, that needs attention. And let me get that report real quick.
Thank you so much, Lelania.
Sure.
And while you're looking for that, I'll just add, there are some of the spending reports that are filtered by invoice date in Sugar, and so if you're running those reports, you're going to be not seeing any transaction that doesn't already have an invoice date, so you'll be missing those transactions that are in ordered or received request where you don't have an invoice date yet. And so you want to be sure that you're running a couple of different kinds of spending reports so you can really see that full picture. Or if you're comfortable with exporting it and throwing it into a pivot table, that's usually the easiest way to look at things quickly.
Okay, Lelania just said Navigator Streams report, so I am going to go, I'll just put Navigator Funding Streams report. I'm going to highlight it for me, and then one person didn't when I was helping them.
It looks like that's on the DECC team, so why don't you go ahead and add that to the council team,
okay,
so that everybody can see it.
Okay, Navigator Funding Streams.
Yep, so if you click on that report, you can edit it and then add it to the council team right now.
Okay.
Edit. And then it's under report details. Yep. And you can just replace that with council. And so that's true for anyone. If you're creating a really great report that you want to share with everybody, then add it to the council's team. and give it a really easy to understand name, and that way everybody can see it. I've noticed that we have, I think we are up to like 400, no, even more, maybe about 400 reports, because everybody can add reports, and not all of you can see everybody else's reports, so it doesn't look quite so crazy, but I think over the summer, Rick and I will be going through and trying to call out any reports that are duplicative and you know, kind of see if a report hasn't been used in a long time, get rid of it, or if it's confusing, get rid of it. So if you have any requests for different types of reports, be sure to include that in the support at ticket. Or if you like created a report that you love and you want to share that, submit that in the support ticket too, because I think that way we can all leverage each other's abilities and skills in that way. That's
great. Yeah, I do like leveraging everybody. And I'm going to show you, in case you want to share a report with someone that's a council report, is because a couple of people that when I did this for, they said, oh, I had no idea that was available. So when you're running a report, one of the options is share, and if you click that, it creates an email with the report name and with the URL. And so what I did is actually I copied the report name, and then I copied the URL, and in Word, if you haven't done this, the keyboard shortcut is Control-K for shortcut, and then you can put the address there and highlight just the name so it's not as long. Okay. And Lelania added, I run it for each navigator and then export and sort. Okay, cool. Okay, so that was you making sure you and the vendors on the same page. Did you have more that you wanted to add or any more specifics? Sharon?
I think that's the main thing. I think Lilith is indicating ECPAC definitely had issues with some vendors and receiving invoices with taxes. So that's a really good example of a nuisance reconciliation item, right? The thing, you know, it's $12.34 and you can't figure out why your reconciliation is off, and it comes down to either taxes, more shipping and handling than expected, or a discount that was calculated differently. So, you know, you've got kind of those three things that you can kind of rely on as why your reconciliation might be off. And then you just really need to work through that with your vendor and make sure that your vendor has the appropriate tax exemptions on file so that they're not charging you taxes. Sometimes you work with vendors who you don't work with very often, so you don't have an account set up with them. And so either, you know, in the pre-approval process, you can communicate that very clearly with your vendor, or that's something that you really have to look for as it's going through finance approval and getting into your accounting system. So that's a great point, Lilith. Thanks.
Yeah, Lilith, thanks for chiming in.
Okay, so I think that's that. I mean, it's sort of, it's one of those things that is very iterative, where the vendors take some time to get you invoices. It takes some time for you to review those invoices and find anything, you know, and so it's just making sure you've got open communication with your vendors. And you can even request, like, hey, vendor Lakeshore, can you just send me a complete statement of account? And then, you know, that way you can see everything that Lakeshore thinks that they've billed to you. And if you're missing anything, you can have that conversation. Or if they're missing something, then you can have that conversation. Through the punch-out, hopefully Lakeshore and Kaplan are pretty good, but there are other vendors like Discount or Montessori Services, all these other vendors you don't use maybe as much, that you can always request an account statement to figure out, like, from the vendor's perspective, what are they showing. And that's going to be really important to do. If you haven't done that already, I would strongly recommend that you do that before the end of June, so that you can resolve any of those issues before you submit your final financial report to the state. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions or comments on that?
Oh,
are people feeling pretty good about their vendor relationships, that they can reach out and get any of those things sorted out?
I do want to add one point, Sharon, that one of the providers early on this month discovered that a vendor had stopped doing a discount, and that was actually because of a new agreement. And so if people let us know of a change that they see happening, that actually affected a lot of councils. And so it was great that they let us know early, because we were able to negotiate a deal to extend that discount through like the end of June.
Who was that, Rick? Was that Discount School Supply?
I believe so, yes.
Or School Specialty, maybe?
I don't remember which one, but I think it was one of those two.
Okay.
Yeah, it was because it was actually a reduction in the discount going for next year, but because the agreement sort of went into effect early, it sort of goofed everybody's budgets, because they had been planning on that the discount was more. So I think the discount dropped from 15 to 10%, but I'm not positive.
Great. Okay. If we're, let's see, Discount School Supply has now extended their discount through the end of 2020. Great. Thanks, Nicole, for that clarification. So kind of the next item for year-end reconciliation, what we do at the Denver Council is we generally will run a report out of our QuickBooks accounting software and a report out of Sugar that shows all spending with all statuses, and literally just pick and tie and make sure we've got everything the same in both systems. So I can show you what that looks like if that's interesting for people. We have an example. And then we could even jump into how that's going to be made a little easier through funding stream enhancements for next year. So Rick would like to make me a presenter.
Okay.
Let's see if it works.
Yes. We had problems. Let's see. Oh, look at all these people here. Okay, are you Sharon Webb?
I think.
Okay, yeah, Sharon Prendergast is the other one, so I think you're Sharon Webb. So if this is the wrong you, let me know.
This is me. Okay, I'm going to try sharing my screen one. Okay, can you see Friday Sugar Support webinar?
I can, yes. I assume others can as well.
Okay. Okay, so what we usually do is we'll start with the reports. And just as a reminder, if you've recently been to a report, if you click on the More Actions, you can see all your recent activities, and you can also see your favorite reports. So if you star any reports, those will always show up right here. So that's a nice little feature. So I usually run the all spending by a funding stream by status. And this, you can always adjust. It's going to remember exactly what you did last. And you can put in your funding stream. And then this is really important. I always put status is not empty for reconciliation so that we can really see all the statuses. So if we've got some oddball statuses, we can investigate and make sure that that's closing out. You'll notice that the invoice dates, we are seeing that some invoice dates are blank. And that means that they are in, well, in this case, they're canceled, but they may be in the ordered status. We've gotten all of our, oh, here we go, ordered. So this one has been ordered, but we still need to attach the invoice. So that's why it doesn't have an invoice date. So that's to be expected, but you want to be aware of those, especially this late in fiscal year, so that you can make any, you can call that vendor and say, hey, I really need this invoice right away, and make sure that it's shipped in time and that kind of thing. So you just go in and export this report. I've already exported it, so we can take a look here. Now I hid a bunch of columns because I really wanted to focus. You can see here that I've hidden columns. I really just wanted to focus on the total request amount, the invoice date, and the actual PO number. Now we've already reconciled our ITQA spending, but one thing that you can do is just highlight your spending as you go through and reconcile. So for QuickBooks, I think most of us as councils are on QuickBooks. Is that right? People can kind of chat in if you're using something else. But you can create a transaction detail report, statement of activity, which is basically your profit and loss statement, and it's going to show you every single transaction in each chart of account code. So if you need any help with something like this is also something the ECHLA Support Desk can help you with, is you know, running reports that are going to match up with what is in Sugar. And then, as you know, hopefully everybody has been including their purchase order number in the memo field from an accounts payable perspective, so that you can easily match. You know, this is 100 CHAV 1003 8191, and then here it is over here. So you would literally just go through every single transaction, make sure everything looks good, and that you don't have anything that is showing up oddly within the system. We have a few chart of account codes that have to do with DirectQI, so I've just sort of summed that up here. And then you can kind of take a look and create a pivot table. So if you wanted to create a pivot table, you would highlight full spending table, and you just go to Insert on your Excel spreadsheet, make this bigger, and say Pivot Table. And you can just do New Worksheet, so it's going to create a whole new tab for you. And what's great about pivot tables is you really don't have to know a lot about Excel to kind of play around with your pivot table field. So what are the things that I'm interested in? I'm interested in the status. So I can see all the statuses, and I'm interested in the total request amount. So now I can see right away my eye gets drawn into this status, which is pre-approved and ready to process. Now, because it is June 24th, I'm surprised that there's something in pre-approved and ready to process, because at this point, everything really should be ordered. Now, I've already sent this to our program staff, and this has already been processed now at this point. But this is a good way to kind of see if there's anything in any status that needs attention more imminently. And you can see everything, you know, within the full context of all of your spending in Sugar. So from there, you can add just a couple of quick fields or quick information to kind of compare. You know, I have $99,000 in QuickBooks, and I have $106,000 in Sugar, and so I need to make sure that that's still within my total approved budget. So I can see, you know, my total expenses in QuickBooks versus my approved budget for this grant, and this is how much I have left, minus how much I know is still going to come in from Sugar. It means I've got $800 on this grant that's left, and I know that there are a couple of other small expenses that are coming in that I'm expecting through credit cards or whatever, and so I know that by June 30th I will be totally down to zero and ready to close the grant. So this is just a really simple way to kind of look at things in the big picture and make sure from the big picture that you are ready to recognize any of the expenses that have been encumbered in Sugar into your accounting system, and make sure that all of those items are reconciled. You don't have any duplicates. You're recognizing any reduced items, things like that. So are there any questions on that or comments? Anybody want to share maybe how they've done reconciliation in the past? How they do it?
Sharon, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you look on the screen and make sure that, we'll see if anybody has questions, but make sure that I've covered, this was the name of the report, I think that I got it, right?
Yeah, I think you have to share your screen again, Rick.
Okay, I wonder you couldn't see it. Can you see it now?
Yep, that's right.
Is that the name of the report you were looking at?
Yeah, I can send you the link.
Okay, because I'll add it to the notes for the meeting. Okay, is there anything else on sort of on a high level that you want me to add to the notes from what you were talking about?
I think just keeping a special eye out for duplicate entries or anything that is a little outside of the norm. That's going to be really important. And then, of course, as part of the reconciliation process and the financial approval process and even the program manager pre-approving items, you want to actually be thinking about the grant specifically. So if it's infant toddler, you really shouldn't be seeing any preschool aged items on that purchase. If it's, race to the top, you don't want to see any capital improvements. If it's CCAP, you can see capital improvements. So, you want to be thinking about the specific grant as you go through the approval process throughout the year and prevent any transactions from being approved that shouldn't be. And then your year-end reconciliation should just be a spot check to make sure that nothing got through that shouldn't have gotten through.
Can you send me Monique's Williams? Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we've sent them into silence potentially.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes away from from the end of the time. I think we have a great meeting, and thanks for the other Sharon for telling me to record this. Then we do have a real recording for it. So I will post this. If I don't get it to today, depending on how many tickets show up, because it has been a lot of tickets, I will get it on the weekend. And Sharon Prendergast, I know you'll remind me if I don't get it posted. Thanks. Oh, darn. Well, you can still, it says I'm here so I don't need it, but I still want Sharon to say that if I don't post it, because she's really good at letting me know that when I don't post it or don't turn the record on. So you're still our guru for that. Okay. Well, thank you all for attending and have a wonderful weekend. And remember, next weekend we will not do the Friday, but I will see you the following weekend. And actually, I'll be in the southern part of Colorado at that time, so I'll be calling in from the road. Thank you all.